Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports for today's roundup of the fourth round of the Carling Currie Cup. Some very big results in terms of the way that the table is shaping up, which of course was also influenced by the fact that the Bulls versus Griquas game was cancelled, not moved, not suspended or anything like that. It was cancelled, was called off, and the teams split the points. Now the big news for this week is that on the 26th, the Lions were supposed to take on the Bulls, and that has been postponed to the 6th of January as a result of a massive breakout in the Bulls camp. And before we talk about the run of the last weekend, there's been a lot of controversy about the fact that the game was postponed, with a lot of teams sort of saying that why do the Bulls get special treatment, or why are suddenly they getting their match being postponed where other games were cancelled. Now, according to the rules, the first port of call, if there is this sort of COVID situation and a team cannot field a side, is to look to postpone the game, to try and postpone the game. And that can only happen if both unions agree to a revised date, which has obviously happened in this case. So the Lions try to reschedule both their Pumas and their Cheetahs matches, but the Pumas and the Cheetahs were not happy with the proposed rescheduled date, and as a result, the points were then sort of shared, and that's why that happened in that situation. Whereas now, obviously, the Bulls have said, listen, we can't field a side, but can we postpone? And they suggested the date, and then they said that we are willing to then play them our match, again on Sunday. We will be willing to do that, and the Lions have obviously agreed and said, you know what, that's fine, that works for us. So there hasn't necessarily been special treatment, but it's been a case of where both unions have actually agreed with the proposed date and are willing to postpone the match in order to ensure that it gets played. Because the problem is that the Lions would have been targeting and sitting there saying, we could get more than 2 points. I think they're really confident. I think maybe a month ago they would probably sit there and say, look, 2 points from the Bulls, we could use that. But now they're going to sit there and say, 2 points, is that enough? The Bulls have already qualified. They could potentially be playing a weaker team, so they could really go after that game and really go for it. And the Bulls also needed to win that game so they can try and cement their place on the top. So if you look at the way it looks this weekend, then this is how the log looks. So the Bulls are on top, 35 points there from their game. But the Lions have moved into second place with 29 points following their 27-12 victory over the Sharks this weekend. A fantastic game by the Lions, and not the best game by the Sharks. I think they just were a bit poor, a bit awkward, weren't quite clinical enough, didn't entirely pitch up, but the Lions took advantage, and now they've moved on and got their 5th victory of the tournament. 3 victories in a row against the Sharks, Western Province and Cheetahs, and they've slowly climbed the table with those victories to get to second place. And suddenly, whilst yes, the other teams have a game in hand, the Lions can try and put a bit of pressure on and try and get that home semi-final, which is very, very important for them. For me as a Lions fan, the biggest pleasing thing is you look at the points difference of 53, and that the Lions are starting to move back towards the style of rugby that made them so successful, that got them to where they are, and that's attacking rugby where they look to try and score tries. And because the Sharks didn't score a try on the weekend, and whereas the Lions did manage to score a try, and especially that Tian Swanepoel try, some fantastic work there by Wandisia Similani to get that over. It was really nice to see the Lions going back to their roots, having a big pack, which works really hard, which they've had in the past, and then the creativity that then sort of go on and make it count and get over the try line itself. The Cheetahs, very importantly, managed to beat the Pumas despite coming from behind. They won 35-31. The Pumas did miss 2 conversions, which means that if those conversions had gone over, it could have been 35-all. So the Cheetahs really got away with one. And the Pumas, unfortunately, as I keep saying, I think they lack the ability to get over the line. They can play in some really positive patches and put in some very big performances against some of the sides, but they struggle to get over the final line. They struggle to hang on to that lead and get those final points, because they did it against the Western Province, and then they came back, and then the Cheetahs once again came back. But importantly, it means the Cheetahs are currently 5 points behind the Western Province, whereas had the Cheetahs lost that match, they would have slumped down, and the Pumas would have suddenly been quite close behind them. So the Cheetahs, in their bid of trying to remain in that top 4, was a very important victory for them. And the Western Province Sharks and Lions, well, not so much the Lions now, because they've moved sort of 8 points ahead, and even with that game in hand, the Cheetahs can only catch up to within about 2-3 points. So they can be caught, But the Lions will sit there saying that, one victory will sort of pretty much ensure that top 4 spot. And whereas the Western Province, especially because they're under a bit of pressure, haven't been playing their best rugby, will be very wary of the Cheetahs all of a sudden. And they've got an opportunity this weekend to try and go and rectify that and go and put things to bed. So on this coming weekend, in terms of the way it's going to happen, is that on Saturday, the Greek will be taking on the Western Province at 4:30 at Newlands, and we probably will try to do a live watch along with the Bulls versus Sharks game. Bulls versus Lions game being called off. That was going to be our watch along, but maybe we'll try and get a Greek versus Western Province watch along. And then on Sunday, Cheetahs will take on the Sharks at in Bloemfontein. That'll also be at 4:30, I think. 4:30. So no Sharks versus Bulls this weekend, which means you look at the Western Province, and a win for them will take them to 30 points or 31 points. And then if the Sharks beat the Cheetahs on the weekend, it takes them up to 32 or 33 points, which means the Lions will suddenly move back to 4th place with the game still to play. And it means that their Bulls game becomes even more important, and there's almost more pressure on them when they eventually play the Bulls on Wednesday, the 6th of January. Because the weekend after Boxing Day and this weekend, we've then got 3 games on Saturday, the 2nd of January. We've got the Lions versus the Pumas, Sharks versus the Griquas, and the Cheetahs versus the Western Province, and then the Bulls versus the Lions on the following Wednesday. So the Lions have a chance to try and beat the Pumas and try and move back up there, but the Sharks are then playing the Griquas, and the Western Province playing the Cheetahs. So the Western Province Sharks will look at those as 2 pretty winnable games. It comes down to whether the Cheetahs are willing to try and make this competition interesting or not. But that's how the logs stand. Let me know where your team is, what's happening with you. Are you happy with where your team is standing? What did you learn from the past weekend? Also, please do subscribe to the channel. We are trying to hit 400 by the end of the year, which means we basically need 4 subscribers every day. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. Bottom right-hand corner there, smash a like on the video. As well, jump in the comments, let me know what you thought of the past weekend and what you're looking forward to this weekend coming. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.